Hello everyone, welcome to the Commander's Briefing. So as of this post was 19 June and there is currently the NATO's largest air exercise in history and it will end on June 23rd. And they are hypothesizing that with the end of the exercise will be the beginning of an operation against Russia. So there's a possibility that the massive NATO air exercise will morph into an instant no-fly zone attempt in Ukraine. US also used exercises in Jordan to transfer weapons to Syrian rebels. So they hypothesize that this could actually happen now as well. We are on the 21st now, 4 a.m. right now in Singapore, and we probably have 3 more days. I find it actually very interesting. I'm not too exactly sure if it's just a no-fly zone thingy, but it does coincide with the Ukrainian counteroffensive. So imagine in a different scenario where the Ukrainian offensive is actually decent. It's actually doing decently well. Perhaps they managed to capture all the grounds before the first line of defense, and they actually managed to engage the real first line of defense of the Russian along the Zaporizhia front, and managed to break through in maybe 1 or 2 points to maybe the 1.5 line. Maybe they break through a little bit, and then of course they have the offensive happening over at Bakhmut as well, at Avdiivka as well, where maybe they have certain level of breakthrough. It is theoretically on paper possible. And imagine that they start the offensive in the beginning of June. Then 3 weeks into this offensive, the Ukrainian forces can gear up to the next level because they already broke the first line of defense, perhaps weaken the Russian line. Then suddenly the NATO Air Force can come in and even out the air superiority situation. It feels possible. It feels like the NATO forces can actually enter war if the Russian forces proven to be not strong enough to handle a Ukrainian offensive with a massive lack of air superiority. Because imagine if the Ukrainians are successful, that means the Russians are shit. And then with NATO air power, Russian forces can be totally defeated easily. But that currently is not the case. So I don't think the NATO exercise will transit into operation. But I want to just highlight that this is a plausibility because it is true. Most military operations all transited from exercise to operation, just like the Russian ones. The Russian invasion of Ukraine also transited from exercise to operation, because that's the only way that you can actually prepare your force for an operation in a very practical way. So which is why military exercises tends to always viewed with some suspicions by countries that is neighboring any of these exercises. So let's see how this goes. Hopefully the NATO forces don't do something silly like entering the Ukraine war, or things is going to get much worse for the rest of the world. And there is also this very interesting situation where a lot of United States armed forces has been seen on the move within the whole of US. So many of the US states are seeing the movement of IFVs, armored vehicles, Humvees, helicopters. Then even within Canada, and then you can see helicopters of the Osprey landing somewhere, not sure what they are doing. Then you have armored vehicles moving within the streets of Pennsylvania, and then we have a massive helicopter movements across unknown state. You can see there's a lot of Osprey and a lot of other helicopters that is following behind. This is actually a very, very massive cavalry force, as far as I can tell. And then suddenly there's B2 as well, flying across the breaches, and more of them. This, all this movement so far. Vaughn from the DPA Open Mic, he told me that this is actually a very common thing. This happens every summer because of this is exercise season. So all the National Guards will be out in deployment, doing camps and everything. So he said this is nothing to be worried about. So yeah, I trust him. So yeah, because all these deployments wouldn't do much. Even if you go into World War III, this deployment will be a bit too early because no one is invading United States. Budanov is actually alive, and he did this video. I'm not sure what he's talking about because he speaks in Ukrainian or Russian. So but he seems really alive. So that's that. So he's alive. He's looking a little weird. He shaved his hair. His nose is crooked. He used to be a lot more handsome. You see, his nose is entirely crooked. Someone broke his nose. He used to be a lot more handsome. I want to go to talk about the lazy SITREP. So the Who is Winning Right Now series. And after this is maybe the 4th video on this. And then people start to get, a bit self-righteous. And the comments is starting to look quite ridiculous. Some people, say that it's inappropriate. And, let's have some respect, Wyatt. All these winning videos are so distasteful, It was funny the first time. Yeah, there's no winner in this war, one of the worst disaster for both countries, blah, blah, blah. So suddenly people becomes a bit more sensitive and self-righteous. And I just want to share, this is weird. It's just weird, because what are you doing when you are watching reports of the Ukraine war, be it DPA or any other channel? What you're trying to figure out, you're trying to figure out who is winning, right? Be honest to yourself. You're actually just trying to figure out who is winning, who is doing what, and how they are doing it, to let you decide or have an analysis or have a sensing of who is actually winning the war. Is Russia winning the war, Ukraine winning the war? And then so that you can kind of predict, and expect what's to come. Is who is winning? That's what you care. So this lazy SITREP basically grinds down to the very basics, which is capturing of grounds. And whoever captures grounds is winning. And because that's what it is. People argue, about Ukrainians is losing so much soldiers for every little bit of square meters they are capturing. I'm not focusing on the equipment that is being destroyed, or that's not about it. The Soviet Union in World War II lost millions and millions of people, way more than the Germans, but they won the war. So it's not about losing people per se. Of course, it have a consequence. If you lose your troops, your most able troops, you lose vital equipment. But all this loss of manpower and equipment will translate into the loss of territory. You cannot defend if you have no troops that's willing to fight. You cannot hold back a Russian armored assault if you have no armor of your own. You have no air defense. Russians can easily take over the trenches. In the end, what is it matters? It still comes back to capturing of the ground. How the battle actually went on. How the Ukrainian forces were totally wiped out by artillery shelling, and then on the Ukrainian side, they saw the video, and then you see how the trenches are getting wiped out by Ukrainian assault groups. All these are not important. All these are just stories. These are all, if you like it, propaganda. So it all comes back down to control of territory. If you cannot capture territory, you're not winning. So in the grand scale of the war, from the beginning to now, Russia is winning. That's just it, because Russia is still have more grounds in Ukraine than they were at the beginning of the war. So it doesn't matter what pro-Ukrainian people, you guys like to think. As far as I'm concerned, Russia is winning the war because they are having more grounds. So until the Ukrainians push the Russians out entirely, Russia is still winning the war. But in the lazy SITREP, what we are looking at is what's the tide of war over the past 1 day or 3 days or 2 days. It all depends on the time span that you're looking at. Like the Ukrainians like to say, over the past 4 months, the Ukrainians have captured more ground. So my question is always, why 4 months? Why don't talk about a much longer period, like since the beginning of the war? So it's selective. So in the end, be a bit wise about what we are talking about. So you don't get bogged down by self-righteousness, and it's stupid. Everyone just want to know what is happening, so we know who is winning. And I just simply, in a lazy SITREP, just tell you who is winning. so you don't need to guess. That's just how it is. So yeah, so get off the high horse, start predicting, predict, yeah, failure. And so then coming to the last piece of thing that I want to talk about in today's briefing is Oryx. So Oryx apparently is retiring. Oryx is the organization or the OC that was accounting all equipment destroyed, how many tanks are destroyed, how many IFVs are destroyed, and they do this very long list, trying to tabulate how much the Russians have lost, and then based purely on photos and videos. But he would like to inform that he's ending Oryx on the October the 1st. And he started 10 years ago to cure boredom. Then he never expected that it will become so busy. And he worked on articles and the list on their free time. So he's probably have a team, and it's not their job. They don't get paid. He hoped that their work will lead them to a job, but no, it didn't happen. So Oryx no longer make him happy. Doing it just make him less happy. Personally, I just felt that it's a waste. It's just a waste, because 10 years. Imagine Defense Politics Asia running for 10 years. Actually, Defense Politics Asia is not young. Defense Politics Asia is also many years old already. It's, I think, 5-6 years old. So DPA is actually not just 1-2 years old. It's actually also quite long, and it will be a waste. So, but Oryx is a good warning to what can happen to DPA, which is also why I kept saying I keep talking about revenues. I keep talking about subs, views. The reason is not because I'm money minded. You need the revenue, you need the money in order to continue the coverage. No one can work for free forever, which is exactly what happened to Oryx. You know how big is Oryx? Oryx have 447,000 followers. That's a huge clout. That's way more. That's like 20 times bigger than what DPA is, and he cannot make a living out of it, which is why my focus is always on YouTube. And after when YouTube start to behave very weird, they demonetize certain videos and stuff, or certain days, and for one of the month is very bad. 1/3 of the income was gone, which is why I keep pushing for Patreon, which is why the DPA's Ukraine war mapping is behind paywall. It's because of this kind of thing. I can tell you, even for me, I'm tired. Actually, covering the Ukraine war is very tiring now. I'm actually very bored of it. Sometimes I dread having to cover it, because it's taking time away from my family. But the revenue is there, so it's a good incentive to try to continue to do the work, and it's a commitment. So the revenue incentive allows me to explain to my wife and family that I need to do this, so that I can earn X amount of money for today, so that it can pay for certain things, and that helps to keep the motivation going on. So even if I really dread it that day, I'm in depression, I can still do it. When you are in Oryx situation where he's doing a very difficult work to recognize every single image, photo, videos, and then to identify that this is not a duplicate, which I'm not sure how. I don't really look into his work, because I don't agree with this technique of recording losses. But it's a lot of hard work, and which is why he burned out and he just got sick of it. I have my other professional work as a designer. I don't even spend this much time on my other work. The other work, I just work like at most a week or two, or 10 days, 10 working days, 7 or 10 working days, and I can earn a 1 month income. This DPA takes 6, 7, 8 hours a day. I don't even spend 2-3 hours on my other work, and that's the huge difference in terms of the amount of time it needs. So DPA is a lot of hard work. So yeah, I have to to justify it, because it's not just my time. My wife is also, my daughter also, they are also sacrificing for this project. I cannot bring them out as often as I used to. I do not play as much with my daughter as I did, before the Ukraine war. So these are all real, all real. So I can totally understand why Oryx just can't stand it anymore, because his work is probably even harder than mine, to be honest. You have to dig for the photos, dig for the videos, archive the photos and videos, try to rename it, try to track it, and then try your best to not duplicate. Sometimes the stupid camera crews or the soldiers keep going back to the same wreckage to take more propaganda footages, and then you might actually double count. So it's all very, very hard work. So on this note, to let you guys know, especially those who are watching now within Patreon, the full unedited versions, thank you so much for your support. It is your support that DPA can continue to be covering the war. It is the Patreons, the people supporting on Coffee, on Boosty, on Locals, is you guys that actually give me this security cushion, so that I no need to worry about YouTube screwing with my life. So it's really, really appreciative, and I'm very humbled by your support. Anyway, thank you for watching. This is the Commander's Briefing, and I'll see you in the next update.